President Clinton appears in the new documentary Breaking the Taboo, and one of the film's backers joins me, Sir Richard Branson. His son Sam produced the movie. Branson is also a member of the Global Drug Commission, and I spoke to him just a few moments ago and asked him why he thinks the war on drugs is a failure.
Basically, as big as a failure as prohibition of alcohol was back in the 20s and 30s, when the underworld in the form of Al Capone reared its ugly head, where everybody was disobeying the law by carrying on drinking, and it became almost more fashionable to drink with prohibition than it would have been without prohibition. And so, over the last 2 years, I've become part of something called the Global Drug Commission. It's got many ex-presidents on it. We've examined all the facts, and the Commission as a whole have said that we believe that drugs should be treated as a health problem and not a criminal problem.
Well, you have an amazing statistic in the op-ed you wrote for CNN saying that we spend about $30,000 a year to incarcerate an inmate, people who would go to jail for drug use, but we spend an average of under $12,000 per public school student.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, there are, I think, 800,000 people who are in prison for smoking marijuana today in America. I mean, an enormous amount of people. It would be, so much better if they were out of prison, being useful members of society. We just put out a film. We're putting out a film tomorrow. My son's made it, called Breaking the Taboo, which puts across these alternative different ways.
But to that point, what would you, if legalizing or allowing is part of the solution here, what would you legalize? Just pot, other drugs as well?
Well, look, I think what the Commission is saying, and these are people who, when they were in power, did not have the bravery to do something about it, and they all accept that. Now they're out of power. They've realised they made a big mistake not doing something
Jimmy
when they were in
Carter,
power.
Bill Clinton.
Exactly. So what they're saying is, first of all, treat drugs as a health problem, not a criminal problem. So anybody who uses drugs, do not lock them up. And if they use them in excess, like if somebody uses alcohol, then help them.
There have been studies done on marijuana that show, especially among younger people who use it, that it is often a gateway drug, that people who use it and get used to it will then perhaps experiment with harder drugs, cocaine, heroin, whatever it might be. Is that something that worries you when you talk about regulating, or do you think that that's not a fair concern?
Well, I think the possibility that people who go out on the street to buy their marijuana are going to be pushed other drugs by their drug pusher is considerable. I think if it's regulated and taxed and monitored properly by the authorities, that goes away, and it actually pulls the rug out from under the drug pushers.
What about the harder drugs, cocaine, heroin?
Well, what we simply propose with the harder drugs is do what Portugal's done, and that is let the state set up clinics throughout America. That if you have a drug problem, you go to that clinic and give them the methadone until they're ready to come off, and when they're ready to come off, use a drug clinic which costs a third of the price of a prison in order to get them back into society again.
So it's how you're treating it, but you're not making it legal to buy heroin or cocaine.
No, but what you've done by having the state provide it to these people who've got a problem is completely pulled the rug out from people who are pushing it.
Sir Richard, it's interesting when this country has the Office of National Drug Control Policy, long acronym, and we have a lot of groups dealing with this. But when we asked them about the film and about the idea of sort of legalizing and focusing on drugs that way, they said, well, look, we spend more on drug education and treatment than they do on law enforcement. What could they do better?
What they could do better is simply stop locking people up. I mean, if you're sent to prison, you end up in a far worse state than if you're actually sent to a drug rehabilitation center and helped.
And let me ask you, because you're known as such a free spirit, right? Do you smoke marijuana?
I'm a 60s lad. I tried a spliff or two, when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I decided that drink was my drug of choice, and so I prefer, wine or beer to marijuana. But whether children of mine do, well, that's another story.
I'm sure, right? They're in the age where I suppose it could be. All right. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate your taking the time.
Cheers. Thank you.